Hey knitters, welcome to episode 232 of the Knitty McPurly podcast. I'm your host, Devin Ventry. You can find me online at KnittyMcPurly.com. If you want to email me, I am Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com, and I am Knitty McPurly on Instagram, so go give me a follow over there. Welcome to the podcast. Hope you are doing great. It's crazy hot here, stupid humid. Just so hot and humid. And I've run out of summer knits. So what that means is I just need to make more because here I am wearing a non-knitted thing. Terrible. I am drinking today out of my Rocky mug that my mom got for me for Christmas. I'll talk more about Rocky at the end of the podcast because this is a knitting podcast. So if you want to hear about what my last week has been like at the end, stick around for that. Okay. Let's get right on in to progress and shop news. There are some sale items over at the store. The Diggory Tea is on sale. If you are joining us for the Knitty McPurly Summer Knitalong, it ends on August 15th. So you still have time. You could still feasibly knit a whole summer top in the time that you have left, which I think is where I'm going. So I'll talk about that in a minute. Also, my older colors of the month are on sale. So it has been a really, really good sale going on over there. Go check it out if you would like. All I'll say is that my dog died. He died, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because I know many of you are just here for the knitting. But as we talk about on this podcast sometimes, the feelings and the hard times in life bleed into our knitting. And sometimes we dive into the knitting and we just devour it. And other times we just kind of set it aside. This week, I found that I have been setting aside anything hard. So, and it's still here from last week. My Vivian tea have not picked up. My botched wisteria tank that I talked about last week on the podcast have not picked it up because it needs to be ripped out. You can't do that if you're already stressed. So I was really glad that I had been working on my crisscross tee by Pearl Soho. This is an older pattern. I got pretty far. Now I'm knitting it inside out, even though the directions don't have you doing that. They have you because it's all reverse stockinette. And then there are these portions with, so that's the side there. And I did it a little bit differently. They had both the front and the back hem as the same length. I made the back just a little bit longer. So, as per usual, I'm going off script a little bit. But older patterns, I feel like were not necessarily written with the knitter in mind. They're kind of written with the final product in mind and possibly with the designer in mind. So I decided to just go ahead and knit this wrong side out so that I'm working all of the reverse stockinette on the knit side. And I don't really mind purling, but that's a lot of purling. So I feel like even though this is worsted weight and it's just a summer top, I feel like I've gotten pretty far. I'm kind of happy with how this is going. So I have thrown myself into this because it is just so easy. It's just stockinette with a little bit of ribbing down the front and on the sides, and then the whole back is just stockinette. So I have been working on that, and that's all that I've gotten done this week. That's all there is about that. I found that when I started the Vivian tea, I was obsessed. And I have just run out of steam. And, having something happen in your life that is really difficult can just derail that. So I started the Vivian tea with the intention of that being my summer knit-along project. But at this point, it's looking more like this is going to be my summer knit-along project because this is what I have the bandwidth for right now. And once I get to the sleeve split, there's just not that much left. There's the two fronts, and I can't even remember what the neckline looks like. I think it goes back like this, and then I don't even know what the back looks like. But anyway, that's where I am on that. So let's move on to the topic of the week. Last Sunday, I took a trip over to Cestari Farms, which is down in Swoop, Virginia. There's actually a couple different names. Like I've talked to, so Francis Chester, he's 89 and he and his wife still run the sheep farm. They run their little country store. And I say little, but it's actually kind of a big country store. So here's a little video that I put together that's just kind of a compilation of the filming that we did that day.
The development of sheep is very, very interesting. Science tells us that sheep were the first mammal that was domesticated by man. We're in the mountains and we're surrounded by mountains. That mountain right up there is the second highest mountain in the state. It's just under a mile high. And it's called Mount Elias Nog. None died. It works out really, really well.
Neat.
Really, really good. Let me show
Why
you
are they on their legs like this?
We bring the grain in normally with the tractor trailer.
So I learned a ton from Francis. I keep wanting to call him Chester. So his name is Francis Chester, and Chester is an Americanized version of Cestari, which is his Italian surname. So I think he said his grandparents came over from Italy in 1905-ish, and he was born in New York, and he started his love of farming and love of, kind of the farm to shop situation when he was 10. And he just had such a knowledge about American history and the wool industry. And so we sat down and talked to him for about an hour. We were there for about 5 hours total. And we talked to him for about an hour. And it was so interesting because, this guy lives like 2.5 hours from us. And we had so much in common. The priest who is the godfather to our youngest child, Francis, used to teach at the college where he was when he was there, and he remembered him. Like, it was just so funny. We had a lot of things like that where we just had a lot in common. We both had 4 kids. Obviously, his kids are a good bit older than ours. But he and his wife, Diane, were just delightful. We had such a good time. And I will be having some Virginia yarn in my shop in a couple of months. We are in the process of getting some of their yarn, and it's all American wool, American cotton, spun and milled right here in Virginia. It's so, so exciting. So I'll have more news about that probably end of September, October. So that is really, really exciting. We had a great, great visit with them, and it was just a wonderful experience all around. Okay, let's move on to some of your comments. Knitty Crow says, I really hope you're able to source some local wool, as it would be great to support a small American farm. Let's keep our wool industry alive. Katie B says, that'll be so cool to hear about the sheep farm tour, and even better if you're able to get Virginia wool in the shop. Oklahoma, Texas Sheep Lady said, thank you for pursuing American grown wool. There are so many shepherds of small flocks for whom support is a lifeline. Few break even financially and keep their flocks out of love for the animals and the knowledge that the genetics are worth maintaining for future generations. Yes, I learned so much about particularly Rambouillet. Francis has Rambouillet sheep, and he talked to me all about them. So basically, Spanish Merinos, right, living in Spain, Louis XVI in France in, what would that have been, 1730 through 50? I'm not exactly sure when Louis XVI was a monarch, but probably that's got to be 50s or 60s of the 17s. So He's like, I need some sheep. So he gets all these Spanish Merinos and he moves them to Rambouillet in France, and they become Rambouillet. So the connection between Merinos and Rambouillet, they're both very fine wool sheep. Now, over time, these sheep, the Rambouillet sheep, become bigger and produce more wool that is of a finer quality. Now, the good thing about Rambouillet, as opposed to Merinos, I believe, is that you can eat them. So you can raise them for their wool, and in the end, you can eat them. So that is what Francis does, that he has sheep that are both for wool and for meat, which is just great. I love that. That's what sheep are for. Let's use them for what they're for. Ruth Ann says, another great podcast. You do have fantastic yarn. I love it all. I don't even dare lay it out. I kind of feel that way too, Ruth Ann. She says, have a great week. Can't wait for the visit to the sheep farm. B says, Cestari Sheep Farm will be so fun for you. I love visiting their booth at Maryland Sheep and Wool every year. They have really lovely, high quality lanolin if you use that in your balms. They seem like lovely people from my interactions with them. That is so true. So Francis was actually one of the people who helped start the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. And if you go to this wool festival, you'll find that he and his booth and truck and whatever he has is right inside the gate. And the reason for that, he told me this little story. He said years ago, he had like a really big, I guess it's a truck. I'm not exactly sure what his situation is, but it was a really big, fancy thing that he had. And so some of the other vendors were like, get this guy out of here because his booth just looks too good and people are going over there and they're not coming to us. And he said, so I moved to right inside the gate. So everybody who came in walked by his booth, but he's been there for however many years, like 50. So, you know, when you're 89 and you've been there for 50 years, you can do whatever you want, I would think. Good to know that they have lanolin. I do use lanolin in my balm, but I don't get it from him, but maybe I should. Oklahoma, Texas Sheep Lady also said, I loved Katie's pictures of her yarn stash. I hope she has contacted her home insurance and listed it as an art collection. And then there proceeded to be just a few more comments about that, where someone said, yeah, I tried to insure my quilting stash and my quilting machine. And she said, you have to list it as a collection so that you're not insuring just like individual items. So if you have a really good collection at your house that you need to insure, there's a little fun fact. Christy, hi Christy, said, I just went to McKinney Knittery yesterday. I am in DFW for a softball tournament and needed some yarn. Yes, so sadly, I did not end up in Dallas. It was like, so my husband's work trip got rescheduled and I had planned on going, but with all of the stuff going on in Texas lately with the flooding, the plane tickets were really, really high. And so my husband was like, it's just not going to work out this time. And I was like, your dog is dead and you don't get to go on the trip. So I felt a little bit sorry for myself there. But yes, I will not be making a trip to the McKinney Knittery anytime soon, but hopefully someday. Erin says, Delay, Don't Deny is a great book. I've read it many times and often go back for refreshers when I need a jump start. If you are new, we do some book recommendations, and I recommended the book Why We Get Sick by Ben Bickman, and that has led us all on a conversation about intermittent fasting and healthy eating. So this is what Erin has to say about that. She said, Jen Stevens, who wrote Delay, Don't Deny, also wrote another book called Fast, Feast, Repeat that is worth reading. She says, intermittent fasting has changed my life for the better. I have Crohn's disease and have been able to not be on regular medication since 2021 when I started fasting regularly. I recommend it for everyone. Yes, I am about 34 hours into a 36-hour fast and I feel amazing. I don't want to get cancer again, and I don't want to get dementia, and I don't want to die before I see my grandchildren. So if you're at all interested in that, there's lots of good book recommendations that we've talked about the past couple weeks. Melissa said, I missed a couple of episodes, so I went back and I wound up watching the AI episode. One thing that I used ChatGPT for was to translate a pattern from Norwegian into English. I had tried using Google Translate and it made no sense at all. I put it into ChatGPT to use American knitting terms and translate the pattern. It gave me a usable pattern and even formatted it into a file I was able to save for later. Wow, that is amazing. We can translate patterns in a way that's usable. That's amazing. You know, I wonder, that would probably also work for vintage patterns. If it worked for this, I mean, that's amazing. I tell you, I've put things into ChatGPT and I'll say, you know, I want something that sounds like this. And they'll give me suggestions and I'll be like, could you give me something less stupid? Like that just sounds so stupid. And they're like, I understand. You feel that this is overly flowery and you want it simplified. And I was like, how did you know that that's what I meant? So I get it. AI, I get the criticism of it, but it also has its uses. All right, knitting fantasies. I have spent most of the summer and the spring looking at summer knitting patterns because I just felt that I didn't have enough of them for someone who is as hot as I am on a regular basis. Like I'm just hot a lot of the time. And so I wanted more summer type knits. And I have 3 that are happening right now. But I'm starting to think, mainly because of my new yarn, my new Virginia yarn that's coming, I've started to think a little bit about the colorwork sweaters that I want to knit this fall. So I've chosen 2 colorwork sweaters that are new to me. So I'm not exactly sure. Oh, this one, July 2025. Okay, the second one is from May 2021. So my first one is the Forget Me Not Jumper by Florence Miller. And I believe she has got to be, oh, looks like she's British because her pattern is sold in British pounds. I could tell she was not an American because everything was only given in centimeters. So I think this is a beautiful sweater. I think it could be adapted to make it cooler in certain ways. It's DK, which I love. As we have discussed, DK is just the best weight of yarn. I love the pattern. I love the colors. She has 2 color examples here, but I especially love the white one. I just think it is so, so beautiful. It comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It comes in 9 sizes. And here's a funny little thing. She has a little asterisk next to the 2 largest sizes. And she says, I didn't find anybody who wanted to knit these sizes, so these sizes are untested. And I thought, of course you didn't, because most people are not those sizes. It's nice to have those sizes in case you want to use a different gauge, but most human beings do not exist at those sizes. Okay, my second pick is Starry Night by Alicia Plummer. This has everything going for it. It is short sleeve. It's got a beautiful kind of scooped neckline. And it's an all over color work that doesn't look like it has really long floats. Really long floats, I've done them, you know, I'll do them if I have to. If I really love the sweater, I will do the long floats, but this just looks like it has everything going for it. It is in a sport weight yarn, but I think just as a cursory glance, it would look amazing if you held like a fingering weight wool together with a mohair or a Surrey silk. I just think a halo there would be beautiful. I did not see, oh, this comes in 8 sizes. So the smallest size is 35 inches, which I kind of feel like there are going to be some people on that low end who would like something a little bit smaller than that. But who am I to say? Okay, so here's what happened. Today's So Here's What Happened comes to us from Amy from Michigan. Hi, Amy. I just love Amy for so many reasons. She's a wonderful human being and she contributes to the podcast, which I love. She comes to my retreat, so I get to see her every 2 years. And she is an amazing knitter. I mean, I think I'm a decent pattern writer and a mediocre knitter, but she's an amazing knitter. Some people just have levels of excellence that the rest of us just don't have. So that's fine. I can totally accept. I know where I fall. But Amy has sent me this wonderful story, and I love it for so many reasons. She says, my husband, Scott, loves hand knit hats. I decided to count how many he has before commenting on Tammy's story about her husband and the hat. So this is the story. She sent me this back in mid-June. So this is commenting on a story that aired around the middle of June, June 15th-ish, from Tammy about the hat that she made her husband. Amy says, Scott has 68 hand knit hats. I had no idea that I knit him so many so far. I enjoy purchasing that one special skein, especially when we travel. Something luxurious or unique. I almost always use those skeins to make hats for Scott. We both benefit. I get a quick project with special yarn and he gets another hat. In his opinion, there's no such thing as too many hats. That is just great. Throughout the winter, he wears a different hat every day. And Amy and Scott live in Michigan, so they've got a nice long cold winter to enjoy the hats. Scott has 2 bins and moves the worn hats to a different bin so he doesn't repeat any until he has worn them all. I've been knitting for close to 25 years. I guess it makes a little sense that he's accumulated so many hats. He refuses to get rid of any, even the old ones that I made before I was a very good knitter. Every year, I gently suggest that we donate some, and he can't bear to part with any. When we're out and he's wearing a hat, he often gets compliments and proudly says, my wife made it. He is definitely knit-worthy. Oh my gosh. He is a keeper. Just yes. That is so, so great. The only thing my husband will wear that I made for him are hats, and he does wear them if it is really cold outside. But again, we live in Virginia, and Michigan cold and Virginia cold are not the same thing. But just the fact that he is so careful, where he's got, okay, I wore this one, put it over here and save it till next winter because I have to get through all 68. That is awesome. I love that story so, so much. Okay. Here we are. We're at the end of the podcast. I'm going to tell you the story about my dog. If you were just here for the knitting, that's it. That's all there is. So last week on Sunday, we went to Cestari Farm. My husband and I were gone all day long. So it was just the kids home by themselves all day. Okay. So we get home about 9 or 9:30 at night on Sunday, and we're sitting in front of the TV. We're just kind of, putzing around, trying to get tired enough for bed. And we're going to go to bed in 10 minutes. And Rocky starts having a seizure. And, he has seizures he's had them for a long time. He takes several medicines. We had taken him to the med vet back in March or April. I think it was March. And after he has the first seizure, we notice that this is different. He's his arms are kind of like this, he's not acting normal between the seizures. He has, too much coming out of his mouth. He's just not normal. And he proceeds to have 4 seizures in about a half an hour. So we got towels and scooped him up and got in the car and rushed over to the emergency vet. And where he had 2 more seizures in the car on the way over there. And we brought him in and they took him to the back, and the doctor comes out and she's like, does this dog have a history of seizures? And we said, yes, he does. And she said, we can start treatment right now. But he has a 30 to 50% chance of survival. And we were just like, no. And they came in and they put him down very quickly. And we just sobbed and sobbed and cried. It's funny, there's some sun coming. You can still see where I got bitten by the dog, but I have these bruises just from having him in my arms on the way to the vet and him seizing. I've got bruises on my legs. And so that was awful. We came home And Gigi had helped us through the seizure, but our 2 younger kids had gone to bed, and Rocky had been fine when they went to bed. And our oldest daughter had come home from work. So, we got home about 1:30 in the morning, and our oldest daughter is sitting in the kitchen because she just got home from work. And then we had to tell her. And that was the worst part. The worst part, putting him down was awful. But coming home and having to tell Alexis when we got home. And then the next morning we were waiting. We were just sitting there, just crying. And our 2 younger kids come down one at a time, and they're happy because they're going to their cousins that day. And then we had to tell them that their dog died. And it was the worst. So then they were gone for this week, which was good for them, because the hardest part about losing your dog is being home, where you spend the time with your dog. And yeah, it was a rough week. My family forced me to get out of the house, which was good. Like that helped so much, because all I wanted to do was just lay on the couch and cry. And I know, like, he's just a dog. It's not a person. And I know that, but, especially when, like, I don't go to the gym. I have a home gym. I don't go to work. I work from home. I have homeschooled my kids for 17 years. Like, I am a home person, so I'm home a lot. So anyway, I have been just knitting that constant stockinette to try to process the whole thing. On a good note, now that we are a week out, we're all doing so much better. I think I've been able to process it the best because I have been home the most. Also, I reached out to the breeder where we got Rocky, at the breeder who did not euthanize him when he was born, even though he was blind. They found a good home for him. And I sent her all the pictures of him over the years. And it warmed her heart so much to know that it was a good decision to pass this dog who had many health problems onto a family who would love him. And we did so much. He was the best dog ever. But the breeder does have puppies being born at the end of August that would be potentially ready to be adopted in October. So we have high hopes for that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this far. Thank you. Those of you who are watching, I know you know how much we love Rocky. I have Murdog merch in my shop, all designed after Rocky. So, you know. Anyway, thank you. Hope you have a wonderful week of knitting, and I will see you here again next week. Bye, knitters.